The Season 8 patch notes are here early, and we can already see the winners and losers. The S tier USS 9? It's getting nerfed. Meanwhile, the Kilo 141 and the classic RUS just got a massive glow up. But with dozens of other small adjustments, is that actually enough to shift the entire meta? The answer might surprise you. We'll break it all down, including the one change that finally makes the Tempest less of a death sentence. First up, let's start with the biggest news. The USS 9 received two small nerfs. First is a bullet speed reduction of 9%. This is nothing crazy, but it is something that our dear USS 9 user will not like. Second, the movement speed boost that comes with the no stock attachment has been removed. While that change isn't logical for what a no stock attachment is, it's clear they're trying to balance the USS 9. So, fair enough, the change is appreciated. Another significant update is for the RUS 79U, which received a single important buff. The base damage in its second range was increased from 24 to 25. What that does is increase its 4-shot kill potential. That single point change has a significant impact across all the body multipliers. Honestly, this buff moves the RUS up by a full tier in the SMG tier list. However, it's still not enough to be a meta-defining weapon. The Kilo 141 is probably the weapon that got the most significant buff this season. It received 3 key improvements. First, a nice lower arm multiplier buff, going from 1.1 to 1.2. This increases both the 3-shot kill potential in the first range and the 4-shot kill potential in the third range. Second, it got a mobility buff on the marksman barrel, which now has a reduced ADS time penalty. And third, the movement penalty on both of its extended magazines was removed or reduced. Overall, it's not a game changer, but it's definitely a nice set of buffs. But what if I told you there's one stat that can make all these buffs and nerfs completely irrelevant? And it's not in any patch notes. I'm talking about your network latency. We obsess over a tiny time to kill buff on the Kilo 141, but it means nothing if your opponent has a 20 millisecond ping advantage and sees you first. We're ignoring the network stat that actually decides the fight. Treating your connection as seriously as your loadout is important, and that's why I use ExitLag Mobile. It keeps my ping low and consistent by finding a more stable, direct route to the game server. If you're serious about winning, this is the one stat that you can and should control. So if you're ready to take care of the one stat that truly matters, try ExitLag Mobile for free for 3 days using my link or the QR code on screen, and use my code KITS for over 15% off a subscription. And a huge thank you to ExitLag Mobile for sponsoring this video. And this isn't just for COD Mobile. Their tech works on over 800 games, so you're covered no matter what. Alright, let's see what else Season 8 has in store for us. Finally, for the Tempest, the zap or stun duration, however you call it, was reduced from 5 seconds down to 2 seconds. This might not seem like a huge thing on paper, but it's a massive change in practice. Before, getting zapped was basically a death penalty. Now, it is more or less possible to survive. The Chickum received one single buff, and it's to its damage in the second range, which was increased from 25 to 26. Now, a 1-point damage increase might seem useless, but this is actually a huge buff. That extra point means you now deal 33.8 damage per bullet above the legs. So, if you can secure only upper body shots, you can get a 3-shot kill, which allows the Chickum to 1-burst in its second damage range. While this is clearly a huge buff for the Chickum, it will not change the meta. The Locust got a couple of nice buffs that are interesting for the sniper meta. First, it received a flinch buff, with the value being reduced from 3 down to 2.5. Additionally, when using the stopping power magazine, it received a small fire rate buff. In my opinion, this makes the Locust slightly better than the DLQ now. However, it's not a game-changing buff at all. The MAC-10 received 2 small buffs this season. First, the stomach multiplier was increased from 0.9 to 1. This isn't game-changing, but it's a decent buff. Second is an appreciated range buff. It gets an extra 1 meter to its first range and 4 meters to its third, extending its effective range up to 24 meters. But does this really matter? No, because the gun's core problem, its awful BSA, remains unchanged. Nonetheless, the buffs are still appreciated. The Maddox also received 2 buffs. First, the lower arms multiplier was increased from 1 to 1.1, except for in the specific range between 25 and 37.5 meters, where it increases the 4-shot kill potential. Second, the base damage range was buffed. Its damage drop-offs now extend from 12, 25, and 35 meters, an increase from the old 12, 20, and 30 meters. With both changes combined, The 4-shot kill potential is now increased out to 43 meters. It's not gonna be a game breaker, but it's better than nothing. The Type 25 received 2 small buffs. The first change addresses one of its biggest weaknesses. Its bullet spread accuracy, or BSA. Its previous value was 20, which is near SMG level on an assault rifle, and it got buffed to 16. This is a nice improvement, but on its own, it's not enough to make a major difference. The second buff is to the arm multiplier, increasing it from 1 to 1.1. This means the gun's effective 4-shot kill range is now 25 meters, and its 5-shot kill range extends out to 36 meters. So, is the Type 25 meta now? No. These new range stats just put it on par with the PDW-57, and the PDW is still better in almost every other category. It's a good change, but it's not enough. We haven't talked about the MG82 on this channel yet, so for those who don't know, it's essentially another MG42, hence the similar name. It received a couple of buffs, which increases the first and second damage ranges by 5 meters each. Second, they improved the handling by reducing both the vertical and horizontal recoil. This is nothing game-breaking, but it's a slight enhancement that will be appreciated. The Groza received a few buffs, but some are more important than others. First, it got a small buff to the 16.7-inch barrel, boosting the lower arm multiplier from 1 to 1.1. However, this will not matter as we don't use that attachment. What does matter are the base multiplier buffs. The head multiplier was increased from 1.3 to 1.5, and the chest multiplier went from 1.2 to 1.3. Realistically speaking, the only thing this will change is that we'll be able to 3-shot with a chest and a headshot in the first range. Other than that, it doesn't change anything. The ASVAL got a buff on both of its potentially good barrels. First, on the 200mm barrel, the range boost and the bullet speed boost are both increased by 10%, going from a plus 20% bonus to a plus 30% bonus. The second buff is for the quick response barrel, which we use more often. On this attachment, the chest multiplier was buffed from 1.1 to 1.3, and the lower arm multiplier was buffed from 1 to 1.1. It's nothing game-breaking here either. The Outlaw Sniper Rifle received 1 buff to its lower arm multiplier. This means that you can now get a 1-shot kill to the lower arms at any range. It's a decent change, but nothing game-changing. The Striker Shotgun got its pellet count increased by 2. However, since these extra pellets are only in the outer spread of the shot, this is not going to increase the gun's consistency by much. It's a buff on paper, but a very minor change in practice. For the CR56 AMAX, it received an insignificant BSA buff and an insignificant damage buff. To be honest, this one is useless. So, to answer the question from the title, did the meta change this season? Overall, the answer is no. There were no major game-changing buffs or nerfs in this patch. What we saw were simply adjustments designed to make the game a little more balanced in certain aspects. For now, the meta remains stable. So, those are all the adjustments coming to the game. Now, you might be thinking about how the buffs to the RUS or nerfs to the USS9 will change the rankings. You're right, they will, but the update hasn't dropped yet. That means for the next few days, the meta we've been playing is still in full effect, and this is your last chance to dominate with it. Our definitive SMG tier list, which I've linked right here on the screen, breaks down that current accurate meta.